San Francisco's like the Marin kids' playground. You know, you can just jump on the ferry, jump on the bus, you're there, you know. But we were always jealous of the East Bay kids because the East Bay kids could take the BART over, get hammered, and then take the BART back and, you know, be cool. We had to, you know, drive, so you're either drunk driving or you got a DD, and the DD's usually stoned if not drunk, you know, so like...
That was street artist Ricky Rat. Welcome to Storied San Francisco. I'm your host, Jeff Hunt. In this episode, we hear from the prolific street artist whose caption-bubbled paste you've probably seen all over the city, especially during the pandemic. Ricky shares the story of several different cultures converging in his parents, who met at a Halloween party in the Mission back in the 80s. He moved to Marin when he was 5, and tells us what growing up there was like. Ricky ends this episode with his return to San Francisco after graduating from UC Davis. We wanted to remind you that in California, you have until October 19th to register to vote. Go to iwillvote.com for more information. And please, make a voting plan and stick to it. Here's Ricky.
So my dad primarily grew up in Sacramento. He lived part of his childhood in San Francisco and part of his childhood in San Diego. He moved around a lot, but Sacramento the majority of the time. My dad's half Chicano and half Portuguese. His father, my grandfather, migrated from the Azores Islands to Hawaii and then went to Sacramento. His mother, my grandmother, was from northern...
Azores to Hawaii to Sacramento?
Yeah,
okay,
right.
Just like down.
That's where the work was, you know, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Right.
And then he married my grandma, who is Mexican. She's from northern Mexico, but they were indigenous. They were Yaqui, which is like the tribe from there. And they, my great-grandma, her mother spoke the language and all that kind of stuff. So that's how my father came to be, you know, and he's an artist and everything. And he moved
how old is your dad?
He's probably like 55 or some shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he moved to San Francisco in like the 80s after he got out of high school in like Sacramento. Stayed here for all the time. Eventually met my mom out here. My mom's deal is she's half Lebanese. Her ancestors, my grandma migrated from Lebanon to Detroit / Dearborn, which is like the largest Middle Eastern population outside of the Middle East. And she married my grandfather, who's just a white dude. We don't know anything about him.
Okay.
He's got blonde hair, blue eyes. He's abandoned as a child. We just like assumed he's German because he's just a white dude. That's all we do.
Right.
And so both my parents, you know, they're both half Lebanese, half white, half Portuguese, half Mexican, you know. So it's like there was kind of that weird combo. Moved to the city in the 80s. You know, they're both living there, hanging out, having fun. As I was saying before, they met at a Halloween party. My dad was in the band. My dad sang to her, I think, that night at Spin Game, you know. They started casually hooking up. My mom didn't think she'd get pregnant at the time. She told she couldn't. And
this had been late 80s.
Yeah, late 80s.
Let's say late 80s
Probably
Halloween.
88, 89 maybe.
Okay,
you know, something like that. And
well, shit, if it's 89, that's right after the earthquake.
Yeah, right. No,
it's either right before or right after.
They were together during the earthquake. I don't know if they were pregnant or not, but they were together.
Okay.
But they were just like very casually hooking up and like us not using much protection. My mom didn't think she'd get pregnant. And one day, boom, you know, she got pregnant. Told my dad. My dad didn't really know his dad, so he's like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna stick around, be this kid's dad, and you know, I mean, they eventually divorced, but it worked out well for me. You know, it's fun.
Yeah,
they're good folks. They get along and everything.
What hospital were you born at?
Children's Hospital.
That's such an assumption.
Yeah,
what hospital?
Yeah.
But okay,
yeah, Children's Hospital.
Okay.
And I was baptized. I forget the name of the church, but I was baptized at the church on Masonic. You know, right at the Panhandle, where like SI kids go to. I was baptized at that church.
Panhandle Masonic.
I forget the name of it. Saints. So I don't know. I'm
like
awful Catholic.
As you cross Oak, right there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
It's like right near Haight. It's like right before you get there. You know?
Okay. How was your baptism? Just kidding.
Yeah, right. It was very wet.
It was wet. It was very Catholic.
It burned a lot. I don't know why. It left a rash. You know? All the crosses kept going upside down. It was weird as fuck. You know?
The horns went back in.
Yeah, right.
Okay, cool. Well, you said you mentioned earlier, I think that you with your dad left the city when you were about 5. Do you have memories of SF before that?
No, I mean, not really, like little kid shit, you know what I mean? Like being in like our apartment or my aunt's apartment, like playing with a ball or some toys or whatever, you know? But keep in mind, like all my relatives, my cousins and stuff, like we all like moved out here. There's a lot of family out here. So we kept coming back out. And my dad, in their 90s, was a at-youth risk counselor in the Mission. You know, my dad being part Chicano, so he wanted to connect these kids and help and everything. And he also taught art classes out there. He had art shows out there. And then he developed friends out there. And there's a lot of like, you know, very talented artists in the Mission who are still there, you know, and that was just exposure, like, constantly. Because once again, I grew up in Marin. But, like, you understand, like, the normal populace in Marin, like, the father-son dynamic, it's like, let's go to Tahoe this weekend at our cabin. Let's go golfing at 3. My dad was taking me to see Josiah do poetry readings. We were going to the Mission and looking at art gallery. Like, it was always instilled me, and it was always, like at an early age.
I was gonna say, like, it's kind of as long as you remember. Or?
Oh yeah, like I've always been drawing these comics. He's been always very influential of it, and just once again, like just coming to the mission, like before it was even like what it is today. Seeing it as a little kid, like the rules were like you can't wear red or blue. I had it held on my dad's hand the whole time, and it was like all that kind of shit, and just see the progression and everything. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But that was like once again that was bestowed to me like at a very early age, and that's kind of what influenced me to kind of head to the trajectory I guess I'm going.
Right. So you grew up. Your dad was a single parent.
No. My parents were together most of my life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They divorced like later on. I was probably like, like late high school, maybe early college. I forget. But
Got it.
Most of my life they were together.
Yeah.
And they're both cool. I like them.
And what kind of art does your dad do?
He's mostly a cartoonist. He does like comic books. He does cartoon strips. Yeah, it makes sense, right?
There you go.
He used to write hella cool comic books. There's one called what's it called? Like Numbskull or some shit. And I'm on the cover as a little kid.
Yeah.
I had like a cone, I had a cone on my head. And it was really cool though because it was about his experience. He was living in Turk Street in like the late '80s, and he was a super at one of the SROs, the single resident occupancy.
Down in the Tenderloin.
And the Tenderloin on Turk
Okay.
Street.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the late '80s, so it's like when crack just came onto the scene, and he was used to dealing with the heroin junkies, but now the crackheads are coming in, and now also he misses the heroin junkies, and he just talks about his experience and really mind blowing shit. And it's just kind of funny because like my dad being the cartoonist, being an artist, making books and stuff, like that's the most I learned about him is when I'm looking at his art and his work, because he's not gonna tell me that shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he's not gonna, watch this guy kill himself, right? He's not gonna say that shit. So it's like, but I read about it, I see it.
That's interesting. So like through his art, he's telling stories to the world, and that's how you kind of got to know him.
Yeah, absolutely, a little bit. I mean, like I
know him better.
know him better, exactly. I see him beyond a father figure. See him like as a human or a a man or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. It was cool. He's a big influence in my life.
Right.
But my mom also too. My mom's like. She had more of like a straight job. She's a banker and stuff, but she freaking great photographer. You know what I mean? She could doodle and all that stuff. She just never really fully wanted to dive into that because she's from Westland, Michigan, which is like a small shitty town outside Detroit. And like the upbringing out there was you marry your high school sweetheart, you go work at the factory, and then you retire, you send your kids to college and all that shit. So she wanted to get the fuck out, you know? So she's got it in her, but she just wasn't in that nurturing environment to really make her fully, in my opinion, go out,
Got it.
Yeah.
Maybe a different work ethic.
Yeah, like I mean, just like they didn't have a radio growing up. They had a police transition radio or whatever. Because my grandpa was a bootlegger back in the day. So we're listening to music, listening to cops on the radios. It's like okay, so that was a different upbringing for me, but that was hers,
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So from 5 until for a while, you grew up in Marin.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I mean, it's a beautiful area. Like, it's like the nature is fucking gorgeous.
Yes,
Like
it
near
is.
Roy Redwoods, the Mount Tam, it's a lot of sacred, beautiful places out there. And it's actually really funny. If you meet a true Marin person, and I'm talking like multi-generational, like their parents went to high school there, their grandparents went to high school and shit, really nice, hardworking, humble people, generally more blue-collar leaning and everything. And, similar to San Francisco, Marin also got gentrified before, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the history of Marin is like, it was originally like vacation homes for rich families in the city and dairy farmers, and that like slowly evolved into what it is today. And it's unfortunate because it's one of the most widest areas probably in the state, in the country, whatever. And it makes you feel bad because there are brown and black people there.
Right.
They do exist and they do live there, and it just like you feel bad that this kind of like stigma's on them. They're a Marin kid, but it's like but they're they live like where Tupac grew up, or they live like like another area that's not so great. It's not the traditional Marin experience. So. It was weird, like in high school I played football and there was a lot of like the class above me had a lot of like kind of white supremacy vibes and shit. Like I wasn't down with that, I had like a bunch of my buddies were like, Jewish and I was part Mexican and Lebanese, so we're like, fuck that. Like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? So it was weird, but like it's just since it's so white, like you're able to be like, oh, I don't know, you can just say ignorant shit, and like if you're not exposed to people from different backgrounds or whatever, they can't really correct you or influence you or educate you, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the racism from Marin is not really. It's just like lack of exposure, like lack of experience and shit. And half the time they probably don't even fucking realize they're being racist. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I tell people, because I'm a white passing male, I tell people like, yo, like quit this racist shit. Like I am part Mexican, I am part Lebanese, like I am part brown. Like oh, but like you're different. We don't see you like that. And it's like what the fuck? Like fuck you. Like my dad, I remember one time outside our house was like cutting the hedges, and he just had like his Giants hat on, he's listening to the radio, just cutting the hedges, And some Karen walked up to him, like tapped him on the shoulder, and she's like, "How much do you charge, like per hour?" And she's like, "Fuck you, I live here." You know what I mean? So it's a weird place, but like you find your folks in there, and you kind of form a family, and then, for the most part, they're good peeps. But the overall culture, there's just like, it's fucked. The overall culture, honestly.
Well, I think Marin has suffered like it's like textbook white flight.
Yeah.
Right, because it was all after World War II. and migrations were happening into Oakland and San Francisco.
Yeah, I
And-
mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been pretty white. I mean, if you want to go to
Yeah.
Miwok times, then like no, it wasn't.
Right.
But you know, like for the most part, it's really sad. It's like Marin's super segregated. Like
Yeah.
if you're black and you grew up in Marin, people are mostly going to assume that you're from Marin City or like Novato. And if you're like Latino, people are going to mostly assume you're from the Canal or Novato. You know what I mean? And and that's like sure, that's true some of the time, but not every. You know, like I went to high school with like full-blooded Latinos who weren't mixed like me, and they weren't from the Canal or Novato. You know what I mean? But
Right.
that's the stigma they'd get. That's the perception because that's just where it was.
And so where were you?
I was more central West Marin.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get too details. I don't want people to know.
Oh,
I was
no,
like,
that's fine.
a lot of slacklining, a lot of dreadlocks and shit. A lot
Okay,
of Grateful
got it.
Dead head folks and shit.
Got it.
It was a lot of fun. We
I
weren't
heard once that the origin of 420 came from up there somewhere.
San Rafael.
San Rafael.
San Rafael High.
Yeah. You're like, I know the whole
Oh
story.
yeah. San Rafael's back in like the 70s or 80s. I used to work at Perry's Deli on Lincoln Street, right next to Soul Food, the big ass green building.
Oh, love
yeah.
Soul Food.
And that's a historic ass foundation, like the grandparents.
Soul Food.
At Perry's Deli, it was like a lot of Marin City kids came from the bus. A lot of people, like, because the trans center's right there. We had a pawn shop right there, and there's God, what the fuck? There's this other fucking thing that brought people over, but like 75% of the sales were like EBT, like food stamps. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was so weird to see that dynamic of the two, like Soul Food. There's like the Black Platinum credit card, then Perry's, here's the EBT. You know?
Wow. Yeah. Well.
Like Soul Food would come into our deli, they'd fucking clear the entire Coca-Cola section, buy it, and then just resell it for like
Oh
3 or
my
4 times more. So
God.
shit you not, dude. It's fucking insane.
Wow.
I mean, it is good though, but it's just, man, I go order like an extra of like rice and beans. It was like a single scoop of white rice and like a single scoop of black beans. It charged like $12 for that shit.
Ooh,
like what the
that's-
fuck?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's
Like
a bit
this
much.
doesn't even look Puerto Rican.
Yeah, and that's like a staple. Come on.
I mean, it is good. I mean, what's funny is the woman who owns it, her name is Soul.
Right.
And she used to work at Perry's Deli, and she like
Oh.
learned the whole system from Perry's Deli, and then like implemented it in this restaurant it is now. Which I mean, once again, it's good food, but it's just like it's hella basic and hella expensive.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's the origin story of soul food.
yeah, sorry about that.
No, don't be. That's good stuff. So I want to hear a little bit more, what was your life as a teenager in Marin? Did you come to the city? Did you
Oh yeah, dude.
go around the Bay Area? Like,
The city was it, man. Like the East Bay might have been fucking Nevada to me. Like I had an aunt over in Berkeley, and like I had a cousin who went to Cal, and I visited out there, but it was so foreign to me. Like I respected it, I liked it, but I was always a Giants fan, I was always a Niners fan, so I was always out here. San Francisco's like the Marin kids' playground. You know,
Yeah.
you can just jump on the jump on the ferry, jump on the bus, you're there, you know?
Yeah.
But we were always jealous of the East Bay kids, because the East Bay kids could take the BART over, get hammered, and then take the BART back and,
Home.
be cool.
Yeah.
We had to, drive, so you're either drunk driving or you got a DD, and the DD's usually stoned if not drunk, so like, it was a little more difficult, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
hella fun. We used to go to Chinatown, like we were 16 years old, and just fucking drink, and they'd fucking just overcharge us, but we didn't give a shit 'cause they're serving us alcohol at 16. Like,
16.
it was fun as fuck, The city was
Awesome.
where it was at. If you wanted to look fly as fuck for the first day of school, you go to the city and get your fits, you go to Westfield. Like, it was just, that was where you went for everything, know?
Yep.
And that's like the interesting part about Marin, though, is like, I got a lot of cousins like rural Michigan, and it's like, you can't get off the ride at any point. Versus Marin, though, like if you're sick of Marin, you want to get out of that area, go across the bridge, you're in Richmond, go up north, you're in Vallejo, go south, you're in San Francisco. Like there's just so many ways to just like knock and get off the ride.
and coming to the city, you can go to different
Yeah,
neighborhoods.
right. That's what I'm saying. Like it's an easy escape.
Yeah.
Is what I'm, so that was kind of chill. But I never really felt like I fit in there. I never really felt like I belonged. And I never felt that way in San Francisco either, but I never felt like I was a fucking freak out here.
Right.
I felt like a freak in Marin. I felt out here, I was like, cool, like, no one gives a fuck about me, and I don't look, like, different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, this is cool.
And even if I do look different, no one
gives a shit.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's great. It's lovely.
It's
but, like,
celebrated.
Yeah, right. But, like, when I fucking walk down Marin or whatever, I'm like, I stick out like a sore thumb, So
Right.
it is what it is, So, and I'm from there. I grew up there, man.
Right,
So it's like,
right.
it's a weird, complex relationship you have with it,
It's like across the bridge, but it might as well be
A different world, man.
1,000 miles
Yeah,
away.
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, same with similar like neighborhoods in San Francisco,
Oh, totally.
It's fucking crazy.
Totally.
You take one wrong turn, you're in a completely different area.
Let's get beyond then, I guess high school. So, take us through that. Did you graduate from high school? up
Yeah,
there,
I
or-
went to college too. I got an undergrad in social science. I went to UC Davis.
Okay.
Yeah. Very fun. I like education. I think it's very important. I think everyone should be educated. Not even necessarily just because like the learning part, but also the social part and the networking part, and just
on.
that, yeah. keep going to school. Books are cool.
Did you ride your bike in?
Oh,
Did you ride
yeah.
your bike to Davis? No.
Yeah. No, I had a bike at Davis. I also had a skateboard, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the rule is at Davis, you don't want to steal bikes. But then when your bike gets stolen, you're like, fuck it, I'm going to steal bikes. So, like, I stole so many fucking bikes
Kind
up
of
there.
like paying it forward, right?
Yeah, right. Like, you're not going to do it until it happens to you. And then you're like, oh, I don't give a shit anymore, you know? But it was a good school. I was only there for like 2 years. I was a transfer student.
Okay. And then what?
I moved back to the city. Got some jobs out here.
Back to the city? Were you living in the city before you moved? Before you went to Davis?
No, I was living in Marin there, but like
Okay,
I was living in the city before that, you know, before Marin. So I got back to the city. I worked at a tech sales job.
Okay.
I was doing like the entry level shit, you know, like the SDR, you know, where you set up shit, whatever. Exactly.
I
Stupid.
don't,
It's
but-
stupid as fuck. Stupid as fuck. But like I get back from college, I want to live in the city. You know, I've always like that was my dream since a little kid, looking at like I'm being on like hills and Marin, looking at the city, like dude, I gotta get the fuck back there.
Right.
And so I got here. At the time is like it's just taxi industry. That's what the jobs are. That's what the money is. So I'm like, fuck it, I got a degree. I can do this shit. I go in and like it was cool. Like the health insurance was dope. The money was cool, you know. But like it's just that it's a frat boy attitude.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Where it's just like, hey, what's up, like bucko? Like all right, like. We want that yellow sports car. Like, I don't give a fuck about a yellow sports car. Like, I just want to be able to do my art. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, my mind wasn't really there. And then also, you know, just felt weird. Felt gross.
This
You
must
know
have
what I mean?
been like a little after 2010, like in the
Oh,
early
yeah, it was like
2010s.
2014. We just won the World Series.
Okay.
2015, maybe. I did like a year or two there. And I hated it. I fucking hated
Yeah,
it. You know what I
okay.
mean? So I was just like, I'm getting the fuck out. Gave it a chance. Wasn't for me.
Besides the job, though, were you stoked to be living in the city, or?
Yeah, it was fucking cool as fuck. I loved it. I was in like North Beach for a while, I was in Sunset for a while, I was in the Mission for a while, I was partying. It was hella fun, you know. But at the same time too, you felt this guilt, you know what I mean? Because like my dad would take me to the Mission as a kid, and we'd see these poetry readings and these art shows and stuff, and then I'd be out there and we'd be like across the street from like, you know, Valencia Gardens or whatever, like 10 or 15 years ago. We wouldn't be there. Not only are we there, but we're wearing like red and blue and like not giving a fuck, you know.
Right.
And you just, I don't know, it makes you feel bad. Like, I don't know. I'm like the one Marin kid that like grew up where it's like you see an old Mexican lady like walking on the street carrying groceries. Like I see my grandma. My grandma never owned a fucking car. She used to walk her groceries home every fucking day. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing to have in an environment like Marin to grow up with. You know what I mean?
That was Ricky Rad. On the next episode of Storied San Francisco, Ricky will continue the story of his return to SF and talk about how he got started taking his art to the streets. Please join us for part 2 this Thursday. Music for Storied San Francisco is by Otis McDonald. Photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. The show is hosted and produced by me. Michelle and I have produced more than 130 episodes over the last 3 years, and you can find them all at our website, storiedsf.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where you can like, comment, and share the stuff we put out. Find the podcast just about everywhere you can listen, including, most recently, BFF.FM's new podcast network. Please subscribe to stay up to date on all the content we publish. We love feedback, so if you have any, our email is storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Stay strong, stay safe, and stay healthy.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcasts.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.